Evaporite beds. Another type of sedimentary deposit that may seem difficult to compress into a short span of time is found in the great beds of so-called evaporites. Open up my resource on that. I got a dictionary. One of my key tools, dictionary, and some principles of logic, and grammar book. Grammar books. We got a number of languages in the Bible. You got English, your English translation, and you got some Greek, and you got some Hebrew. And I love this resource. It'll open up in a second. In the meantime, we'll keep reading. These evaporites consist mainly of salt, gypsum, and anhydrite, calcium sulphate beds. The term evaporite is applied to these deposits because it is believed that they were formed by long continued evaporation from inland seas or lakes containing saline water. I would think that, because I've not seen much in my short life, but I haven't seen anything catastrophic that might form something like this. Seems like it'd be a long-term thing. A supposed modern example is the Dead Sea, where the evaporation rate is very high, about 120 inches annually, and where the water continually entering the lake has no other outlet than evaporation. The Dead Sea, of course, is known to have an extremely high concentration of chemicals of various kinds as a result, and it is believed that this process, if continued over long ages, would produce beds of evaporites, such as are found in many places in the geologic column. But at present rates, this process would obviously require hundreds of thousands of years to produce such beds as are actually found in the strata. But there is always the possibility that the evaporite bed was formed by transportation from some previous location, where it may have existed since the creation. And there is also the possibility that it may have been formed by intense application of heat for evaporation of large quantities of water in a short time rather than ordinary solar heat acting over a long time. Plausible things. One of the most important types of evaporite deposits is the salt dome. These structures are often associated with petroleum and so have important economic implications. Their tremendous size is indicated by the following. The salt core generally stands vertical or nearly vertical and has a roughly circular of oval horizontal section. Circular, or I say of, or. I typed this in from his notes, so circular or oval horizontal section measuring from 1,000 feet to 2 miles or so in diameter. Huge. It extends downward 15,000 and even 20,000 feet. It's a lot of evaporation. F.H. Leahy in his field geology book. It would seem the height of absurdity to imagine that these huge thicknesses of salt had been built up by evaporation of standing water. It would require complete evaporation of a body of seawater about 8,000 feet deep to produce a depth of only 100 feet of salt. Absurd amount of time when you figure it out. Nevertheless, evaporation of other precipitation from solution was considered for a long time to be the proper explanation for such beds. However, a much more realistic interpretation is now generally accepted. Okay, what is that? Although many theories have been proposed to explain the origin of these salt domes, the view most commonly accepted and supported in America until the early 1920s was that the sea was deposited from ascending waters. However, serious objections to this theory have been presented. In Europe, where the domes are often laid bare to considerable depths by erosion, and where consequently a more certain idea of their structure and origin is obtainable, geologists came to believe that the salt was thrust upward into the sediments like a punch, principally by mechanical means. assisted by the ordinary processes of granulation and recrystallization supposed to accompany the development of schistosity in metamorphic rocks. Okay, let's stop and get that word defined. Let me find the dictionary. I like looking these words up. I'm curious. All right, what's that spelling? schistosity. Kind of have an idea what it is, but yep. The quality or state of being schistose. Oh, well, let's look that up. I guess we don't have that. Okay. schist. It doesn't have the word there. Yes, it does. Oh, no. Yeah, there it is. Just a little glitch. Any crystalline rock having a foliated structure. See foliation. Hence, admitting of ready division into slabs or slates. Okay. The process of forming into leaf or leaves. No matter which. Okay. The act of coating. Kind of get an idea what this is about. Layer upon layer upon layer. Any case, in terms of biblical geology, it would seem reasonable to attribute these original salt beds to the activities of the creation period, with the intrusions forming the salt domes being associated with the other volcanic and tectonic activity during the deluge period. Lots of stuff happening fast all around, so things on a large scale like this can occur. Let's see if they all add up. And if tectonic activity can suffice to explain these most spectacular of the various types of evaporites, there seems to be no reason why it cannot also explain, at least in part, many of the others. As a matter of fact, the principle of uniformity has been quite unsuccessful in accounting for the more extensive evaporites of all kinds, as well as for the salt domes. So here's another failure. For example, the relict, R-E-L-I-C-T-C, by which is meant a basin. Oh, okay, a kind of a sea, a basin formerly freely connected with the ocean, but which is now nearly isolated and therefore gradually drying up. How did that get that way? Yeah, it would seem something suddenly happened, but none has produced evaporites at all comparable in scope to those in the oldest strata. Tremendous depths of water are indicated to account for the deposits, or else there must be continuing subsidence together with a continued influx of marine waters into the relict sea, like the Dead Sea. Just something kept pouring water in there, a huge amount so it could evaporate quickly. There is no place in the world today where this combination of features is found, not even the Dead Sea. Hence, there must again be added to the uniformitarian principle a sizable increment of pure imagination to account for the great salt and gypsum beds. In view of the difficulties encountered by uniformitarianism in attempting to explain the great evaporite beds and the need to postulate either some kind of brine which does not now exist, or else some special conditions of evaporation and metamorphism that are just not known to exist at all at present. Perhaps it is not too presumptuous to suggest that these unusual brines may have been generated during the volcanic upheavals accompanying the deluge. Suddenly, and that unusual conditions of vaporization, the heat and separation of precipitates may likewise have been caused by the locally high temperatures accompanying these same upheavals. The catastrophic environmental factors associated with the flood provide a more satisfactory framework within which to develop a satisfactory hypothesis than does the alternate procedure of pure speculation. I'm going to go on and on these because these are great evidences of something that points to what the Bible teaches, catastrophic events. And then we have plausible explanations, and we have a plausible means by which it was done. Volcanos, temperature, huge amounts of material, many volcanoes throughout the planet at the time, because we have evidence of those dormant volcanoes as well as some still alive. Cave deposits, stalactites and stalagmites. Here's another great story. These happen over many, many years of time. A different form of evaporite, which is popularly believed to require long periods of time for formation, is the familiar stalactite or stalagmite found in limestone caverns. These are formed by the evaporation of lime-bearing waters percolating through the cavern rood. What's a rood? Cavern rood. A measure. Rood or rod. A representation in sculpture or in painting of the cross with Christ hanging on it. Okay. Must have a measure of 5.5 yards in length. Oh, the fourth part of an acre or 40 square rods by the rood. Oh, it's an ancient term. A beam across the channel of a church. Okay, so a cavern, something across. Obviously, the rate of such cave travertine formation depends mainly on the rate of percolation of the source water. The fact that this rate may be very slow at present certainly does not mean it has always been so. Various attempts have been made to estimate the rate of formation of cave travertine, layered calcium carbonate deposits. Oh, okay. But so many variable factors affect the rate of deposition that it is doubtful if cavern ages arrived at by this method are accurate. The caverns themselves are believed by most cave geologists to have been formed by solution of the limestone rock at a time when the rock was saturated. With the gradual lowering of the water table, it is obvious that percolating waters would for some time be still quite plentiful, only gradually lessening in amount. Thus, the rate of formation of stalactites and stalagmites would be rapid at first, generally leveling off to present rates. Even under modern conditions, it is quite possible for these formations to develop rapidly. The speleologist, cave exploration specialist Hendricks says, for example, how long does it take for stalagmite to grow? There's more than a little evidence that growth is considerably rapid. First of all, stalactites are found in man-made tunnels that are only a few years old. Bingo. Second, certain conditions are so favorable to dripstone growth that as much as several cubic inches a year may be deposited in a single stalactite. Third, there are many examples of large stalactites growing on blocks of stone that have fallen from cave ceilings. And I remember looking at a building that was on a campus of a university that was a utility building. And it had stalactites and stalagmites, and the building was like 40 years old. So Charles Hendricks wrote that. Consequently,